Welcome to The Craft. I'm your host, May Globus. This podcast is a collection of intimate conversations on artistry, mastery, and life with talented, passionately curious creatives and entrepreneurs. Most are dear friends, some are those I've admired from afar. I hope you enjoy these conversations, this exploration of the humanity that connects all of us, as much as I do having them. Thank you for being here and for listening. Childhood friends and co-founders of the Juice Truck, Ryan Slater and Zach Berman have been in each other's lives since they were 11. Their friendship has taken them from school days and high school days to a year-long trip around the world before starting their successful juice truck brand together. Both Zach and Ryan grew up in Steveston. Their meet cute was on a soccer field, and their bond was instantaneous. Hustlers at a young age, they got their first taste of entrepreneurship, selling skateboard stickers to their classmates. After university, they worked and saved money for a year-long trip around the world, starting their journey in Kathmandu. It was in Nepal where they discovered seabuckthorn, and the genesis of the juice truck came to be. In this conversation, we explore their growing up and what they were like as kids and teens, the shenanigans they got up to together, their soul-changing adventures and experiences in Nepal, India, and Sri Lanka, what they appreciate the most about each other, new things to expect from the juice truck, and much more. Please enjoy this fun, engaging, and nostalgic conversation with these incredibly good humans, Ryan Slater and Zach Berman. Ryan Slater, Zach Berman, welcome to The Craft.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, I'm excited. I haven't seen you guys in a while.
It's been a while.
Yes, you I've run into, but I haven't seen in a number of years.
Yeah, I agree.
This is going to be a massive catch-up in some ways, too.
I know, just a little hang.
Since we went either mushroom picking or hiking, I feel is the last time I saw you.
Oh,
what?
Were you on
No way.
Were you on the foraging?
I came on the floor.
Yeah, that's
That was so much fun, by the way. And
Yeah.
I kick mushrooms every time I see them on the floor now. So that's all I remember from the.
Spores.
Yeah, that's all I remember was to kick mushrooms.
I think I still have my notebook
That was like
with a pineapple on it.
that was a
with a
little
pineapple
brown
stamp.
fox.
Oh, good memory.
That was
I can
That was
6 or
5
7 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
5 years
Yes.
ago. That was a while ago.
Yeah, that was a great idea. Yes. Mushroom foraging.
Yeah.
Into it.
Back in the days of community events. We'll get back to this.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I'd pick mushrooms and trust myself to be like, I can eat this. Or I'm going to go home and saute this in butter.
Yeah.
Oh, me neither. Could be a deadly experience.
Yeah. You wouldn't have made it here. Into the studio.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. Well, maybe another year or two.
Yeah.
More events like this.
We got
from
ideas.
you guys.
We got ideas to bring community back. I think we want to do it originally in a smaller, more intimate setting when we start to roll events out again, like kind of 5-6 people.
Ooh,
and
like that.
In many ways, I think that'll be more ideal because it'll be more intimate. People will have a more genuine connection versus trying to pack the house all the time. You know?
Yes. Well, I'm in. Keep me posted. This
Okay.
is my RSVP.
Okay, you're in for the first one.
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay.
Well, I love to always connect the dots on how we met. So I was thinking about it, and I think I met you guys when you guys had the truck in Gastown on Abbott Street, and I was at Love Social back
Yes.
then.
Oh, yeah.
And the office
that.
was a few blocks down the way. And I remember Izita saying to me, I'm going to go get a juice from that truck that's down the street. I'm like, okay, I'll come too. And then I think that's where I met you guys, because I remember thinking, these guys are so smiley. So
Generally.
friendly.
Yeah, still, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, that was our meet cute. Was
Yes.
the
That
truck.
makes sense.
That's right. I actually remember you coming regularly, and Azita.
Yes.
I think because we didn't have that many regulars when we first launched that I really remember everybody that supported us in the first year. So
Yeah.
I can remember you coming and Azita and the rest of the Love Social team. So
We had a little black book that we'd write
We'd
so we
Wait.
could remember the names.
Were there 2 lists though, like who's good and who's bad?
there's no naughty list.
There's no naughty
Just
list.
anyone that supported us was on the good list.
It was
Okay,
I was
awesome.
very, very good with facial recognition, so I
Yeah.
could be like, "Oh, that person has come before." And Zach
Yeah.
was really good at name recognition, but not great at facial recognition. So the two of us were really good at, "Oh, that person's been here before," and then he'd be like, "Oh, that's that person's."
Yeah, it's
name."
kind of nerdy. After a customer would leave, we would write in the book like what they looked like and what we perceived their personality or some memorable features, so
I
that
could remember them.
we just wanted to like nail the customer service.
Yeah,
so
and make sure we remembered our
That
loyal
is
customers.
awesome.
You're probably in there. I'll have to find it.
Yeah.
I
Oh
know.
my gosh, I would love to know.
I'll take a picture.
Thanks.
Yeah. Banks. Yeah, probably.
Oh.
That's funny.
Actually, I remember my mom telling me that there was a shipping error. Like probably, I don't know if you guys know him, but his name was Aristotle Onassis.
Okay.
And he did the same thing. Like they were attributing so much of his success because he would remember everyone, remember a detail and write it down, and he had recipe cards.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and he amassed this like crazy
List
shipping
of stuff.
fortune.
Oh, we shouldn't have stopped.
Yeah, I know. Because I don't know anybody
Yeah,
anymore.
I'm bad now.
I think that's my wife.
Oh, well, let's take it way back
Let's do
to Steveston,
Yes.
11 years old.
Yep.
That's when you guys first met.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
We both played soccer. We both played a lot of sports growing up, but Ryan's dad was the soccer coach for the youth Richmond team, and we were both on it. And I don't know, just kind of connected playing soccer, and quickly became friends.
Zach was like 6'1" and I was like 4'11". So I think the immediate bond, I was trying to make up for my height. So I hang out with him to give a little more height next to me.
Go ahead with the big guy.
Yeah. But it was kind of immediate. Yeah. And I moved into his neighborhood
Soon after.
I think maybe like a year or two later, I moved like a block, not even a block, like 20 houses away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So instant friendship connection.
Yeah. And we had a mutual friend. Like we just realized we had obviously had some mutual friends at that young age.
Yeah.
So it's kind of immediate. And then we continued to play soccer together for
10 years after that.
probably,
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and Ryan's dad was our coach through most of that, both for club soccer and school soccer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, soccer's fun because beyond the athletics, you learn collaborative skills. You learn how to play together. You learn, what skill sets each other have. So I think there were takeaways beyond the pitch.
Yes, for sure. And lasted all of these decades.
Except Zach had a temper on the soccer field, but that temper didn't survive outside of soccer. He's a very nice guy.
I was going to say, I can't
he had
with the temper.
Zach had a good soccer temper. Yeah.
It's one of my deep, dark secrets. in like all sports.
Should I talk to Megan?
Yeah.
Probably. It was always like super embarrassing for my parents because I was such a spaz in sports. I just was so hyper competitive that I like needed to win all the time. So basketball, soccer, even baseball. I was like a pitcher in baseball. And if like, this is like embarrassing to share, I wasn't too old. I was like 22. Maybe I was like 13 or 14 or hopefully younger. But if the umpire wasn't giving me the calls, I'd just sit on the mound and just like
just stare
with the ball and be like, the ball's in my mitt. I'm going to sit here until you start giving me the calls I like.
Wow.
It's so bad. And in basketball, I'd always just
bad temper
rage.
basketball.
Soccer, I was always getting cards.
Yeah, you're mad. I was very passive at sports. So if something happened, I was like, meh.
Bounced out.
Yeah.
Rubbed off on me because I'm
Now you're mellow.
I'm very chill now.
Yeah.
I swear.
Ryan, what were your parents like?
Great. So yeah, my dad we came from South Africa when we were pretty young. My dad was like the world's biggest like cricket, like soccer fan. That was like his life growing up. So I think I was like my dad put me in sports real early. And yeah, we moved to like South Richmond, I guess, when I was like 2, 3. Went to a Jewish school until I was like 7 maybe. And then my best friend had moved to go to the public school system. And I was so upset that he wasn't with me anymore that my parents sent me to like a child psychologist for one session to figure out why I was so unhappy. And then I'll never forget, I left the room and then my parents went back in the room and my parents were like, okay, we'll take you out. And I was like, what did he say? And the guy was like, you just was so unhappy that your best friend wasn't in the school anymore with you. So my parents listened, which is great. And they took me out and I went to public school and that's when I moved to be close to Zach.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, private school wasn't my thing for me. But otherwise, yeah, sports were kind of like my early childhood.
Yeah.
That's all I did.
Zach was telling me you were quite talented despite physical limitations.
I have a little smaller left foot compared to my right foot. A lot of people called it Nemo because it was like the little guy.
Yeah.
Little Tim.
Little Tim, and Zach called it Little Tim for years. But yeah, it never really bothered me. Also, Zach used to call me Scrambles.
Scrambles?
I have an incredible ability to fall, but never fall to the ground. I think I might like...
You catch yourself.
Yeah, I have good like motor dexterity skills, so I guess like as I'm tumbling, I always catch my fall. Always.
Wow.
Yeah.
Must look very like a ballet dancer.
Just never really fell to the ground. I always stayed upright.
Scrambles.
Yeah.
be a role model for any kid born with a club foot.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it never really like bothered me. I think I kind of got past it pretty young. But I could never do anything with my left side. So I can't kick with, like, I could never kick a ball with my like left side. So I never made the MLS because of my left leg. Yeah. That's what I told myself.
Do you think that you have some sort of perseverance though within you though that just kind of made you push through that?
Yeah, it never really stopped me in anything. Yeah, I think so. I think my dad was a really good soccer coach, I always found, and he was pretty good at being like, well, if you can't do it on your left side, you can make up for it on your right side. And it always kind of worked out.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. It's actually like a really nice philosophy for life, right? Like if you can always find other ways.
Yeah, and it's not as it used to be very turned in. It used to be more like perpendicular to my other foot, but like over time, some surgeries and stuff. So now it's like it's straight.
Yeah.
Just a big size difference.
You never gave up. That was one thing. Like you'd have a fall that might embarrass other kids or like upset other kids, but you just get up and go about your business.
Yeah, I was okay with it. Yeah.
And what were your parents like, Zach?
My dad he still is. He had a small business of his own in the architectural glass world. And he kind of grew up he's Jewish as well. I'm half Jewish. My dad's Jewish. My mom's Christian, or neither of them are religious, but that was kind of how they were born. But my dad was a kind of a hippie rebel kind of guy growing up and started selling, glass earrings and stuff like that at craft fairs and stuff like that, and eventually turned it into a fairly successful glass business. And my mom grew up in a big family, mostly raised by her mom because her dad passed when she was quite young. So she had a big family that was really tight, but not a lot of money. So they all kind of sought out different professions, business or medicine. So my mom was a lawyer when I was little, and she quit when I was like 3 or 4 or something like that to take care of me and my sister. So there's always like a nice balance of an appreciation for arts and an appreciation for music and kind of a bit alternative in that sense, but also a grittiness that my mom brought, and we always did lots as a family, so I had a pretty good childhood.
And were you artistic as a child too, like drawing?
I didn't really get into it until high school. I kind of as a kid, because my dad had a studio in Granville Island, so my 3, 4, 5, I'd go to programs at Arts Umbrella, and that was just kind of like my preschool or my daycare or whatever, was just arts classes there. But in grade 11, I was in a typing class that was really boring, and the only other, just like see how many words per minute you can do every day of the week. So the only other available class was an art class, and I was like, sure, it's got to be better than typing. And I really just fell in love with drawing and painting and creating, and went from never taking art class in high school to I think I took like 5 or 6 classes in the last 2 years, and then got into Emily Carr from there.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, my parents were like a nice blend of spiritual side and business side and sports side. So I was pretty lucky to have a nice family dynamic.
Yeah. You mentioned your dad was spiritual, hippie. Did you see a lot of that in your childhood? Like what kind of, did you see spiritual rituals?
Yeah,
as a child?
Almost more so, because my dad, his roots started that way, but he kind of evolved into this like business person, and that became more of his filter and his focus. And my mom was this lawyer, but kind of evolved more on that path. So by the time I was like grade 10 by the time I was like 10 or 11, my mom was always doing like Reiki and yoga and like meditating and like reading books on Buddhism and, spending time with the garden in like an energetic way. Yeah. So definitely was exposed to like alternative forms of belief and stuff like that growing up. And it definitely planted seeds in how I saw the world.
For sure.
They definitely switched halfway.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that I think about it.
Yeah. Because my dad, like if you look at pictures of him as a young man, he had like hair down to his waist and, was...
He had a beard as well?
Yeah, had a big beard and kind of lived on an ashram for a while and kind of lived that life.
That's really cool. I usually ask the person to describe themselves as a child, but I think in this case, I want to ask, you to describe the other person as a child.
I
so,
like that.
Ryan, how would you describe Zach as a child and vice versa?
Okay, so Zach was the guy that every Friday and Saturday night, none of the guys would have plans, so we would ask Zach if he could make plans with the girls so that we'd have an opportunity to hang out with girls. Like, he was the key leader of like our school in terms of group hangouts. He was like the one that, he was the kind of the instigator in a positive way of like bringing people together at like a young age. Like, he was the one who always made plans for everybody. We'd always message him to be like, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, can we hang out? Like, he always had friends, and he had friends at other schools. That was the other difference. He was good at connecting with people from other schools. So he was like the boss.
Yeah, you're the social glue in some way.
Yeah. I'd agree. Yeah.
Community builder.
We're big into like the preteen dances and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So we always met lots of people at
Zach had no shame, like at a school dance, at another school, like a community center dance. There'd be like 1,000 people there. He'd have no shame getting on that microphone in front of all these random people and asking a girl out. Like, that was a good way to describe him. Everybody else would be like, I'm not doing that. But Zach had no qualms.
Too much confidence.
Wow. At a young age.
I guess going back to my parents, my mom always believed in me so much. Like, she's always like, you can do anything. So I think it gave me like a false sense of self-belief that I didn't realize wasn't real until I became an adult.
Yeah. That's how I would describe him.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And how would you describe Ryan as a kid?
Ryan was always super likable. He was always down to do whatever. Yeah. Like, never opposed anything. Always very go with the flow. And always like, he still has this in him, and if you get to know Ryan, it comes out he's like very silly. So people always like wanted Ryan's silly side because it was just so funny. Like, for example, he's retired these moves now, but like, we used to going back to these preteen dances again, these pivotal preteen dances in our life. There'd always be Sandstorm by Darude would come on.
I love that song.
And there'd be like
I loved it.
There'd be like 100-person circle around Ryan, and he'd just be going like all out to the song.
I used to get paid.
People loved watching Ryan dance so much that they'd be like, yo, like, if we do Darude one more time, we'll give you $5.
I remember that. It's true.
So Ryan was always like game to make people happy, whether that was like busting out a dance or like in sports, or like, he was really good at skateboarding and stuff too. Like, he would try like knowing that he wasn't going to land it, or maybe you did think you're going to land it, but he would like launch off of like the biggest platforms. So he's always like he made people happy.
You just give her.
Oh, yeah. I don't do that anymore.
No, we're
not
like
the same level.
Old and cautious.
Yeah. Old and cautious. Yeah.
Lost the confidence of our youth.
I feel you on that one. Well, speaking of skateboarding, you guys were hustlers since you were a young age. And so you would send out emails. Was it emails or letters to businesses for stickers and then resell them?
Pretty much emails. I think we both started snowboarding maybe grade 8.
You started before me.
Yeah.
You were like in elementary school.
Yeah. I'd say like by grade 7, grade 8. And like, you'd go, there was a store called Solid Core in Steveston, and you'd always want to put stickers on your like snowboard and skateboard, but they'd be like $3 or $5.
Some of them like,
like
top
$8.
shelf ones were like $10.
Yeah. And this was like, and stickers were expensive. So I don't remember how it started, but I think we just like started emailing companies and being like, hey, like, I'd love your brand. Like, I would love some stickers. And it just like started coming in the mail, like nonstop. We would email aggressively. Like, I remember it got to the point that a skateboard cement company that builds skateboard ramps emailed us to be like, hey guys, we're not a brand. Like, we're a construction company. We would just blanket out all these emails, and we would collect so many stickers. And then eventually we were like, we should gotta sell these. So we put sticker albums together, and we would go to our school at lunchtime, and we'd open up all these sticker books, and we would have like little prices on all the stickers, and we would just sell 100% profit. Never cost us anything to do so. We did it for like the whole year probably.
Yeah, such cons.
But
how much do you think you guys made in that first year?
Maybe a couple $100 each.
There was two kids that bought a lot.
Yeah. There are original patrons supporting our small business journeys.
But yeah.
I think I bought some like Nike shoes and like a Tommy sweater or something like that.
I can't remember what I bought it. I think I used to record snowboard movies with 2 VCRs and then record them onto another like blank VCR tape and then sell the tape
VHS,
too.
Yeah.
We'd sell the VHS tapes as well.
You guys.
Yeah.
Like old JP Walker. What is it called?
JP Walker. I can't remember what was it called? But that's what we did.
Wildcats?
Wildcats. That was a group out of Seymour. That was like a snowboard group out of Seymour. But I think they did have a video.
Yeah.
That I probably pirated, unfortunately.
Oh, your entrepreneurial roots started very, very young.
Very young, yeah.
And then as you guys got older, you then went to UVic.
Yep.
Yeah. And you did urban geography.
Yep.
What made you choose that?
I only wanted to do classes that were at 1 p.m. or later in the day. Straight up. So you have to understand that in first year, I was like, getting up at 7:30 seems crazy. Like, I don't want to do that stuff. And then by second year, I was like, I'm definitely not doing that anymore. So I would literally go on either rate my professor and I'd see, okay, which person said teachers were easy, and then make sure that the classes were like probably after like noon, let's call it. And then I realized though, I think someone had once told me that if I was going to graduate school, they didn't care what classes you took. They just care what your GPA was. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to take the easiest classes. And I was like, oh, they're all geography classes, it appears like. So as I started taking them, I really loved it. Like City of Victoria actually is an incredible city for urban geography. Like there's so many of these like master plan communities. And most of my classes were just straight up field trips where we'd like drive down to like a suburb and we'd all get out and we'd just like walk the streets and like talk about a mixture between like the urban development of it, the architecture of the houses, like the way the landscapes were set, like who designed it. It was just like endless field trips out throughout like Victoria and the greater Victoria region. And it just like continued on. And at that point, I actually was going to do landscape architecture school because Zach said, obviously working in the glass architectural business, like had like worked a lot with landscape architects. So I like briefly I chatted with him and like I thought that could be like a profession because I actually like enjoyed it as like time went on. But it was just, to be frank, it was just the easiest classes. There's not much to it.
Well, I mean, it's kind of amazing. It turned out to be something that you actually enjoyed.
Yeah, it's something I enjoyed. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you went to Emily Carr and did fine arts.
Yes.
Yeah. How was that experience for you?
I loved it. I would go back in a heartbeat. I always thought that I would go back and go to business school after to kind of combine the two, but we ended up starting a business. So that was kind of like our business school in a sense. But Emily Carr, especially on the fine art side, so I was in painting and photography. It's just so kind of make what you want out of it, so liberal. Like you'd have a 6-hour studio class and you would just, it'd be very self-directed. So for anyone that likes to create or play around or just experiment with things, it was super fun.
That's so cool. And then after that, you guys came back. Well, you came back, I guess, from Victoria. And then you saved up for this backpacking trip that you were going to take for a year. Why did you guys decide to do this together?
Well, to give a tiny bit of background.
Yeah.
When I came back from university, I had worked for Zach's dad every single summer since I was 12 with Zach. So for probably 9 years straight, we worked together every summer. And I came back from UVic and Zach had just finished school and we both worked for his dad. I think his dad's idea was that we would take over the company. So we were like pretty focused on that potentially being like, I had actually written my LSATs to go to law school. And after I wrote them, I was like, I did not want to become a lawyer. So I worked for Zach's dad. And I think our long-term mentality is that like we would probably take over the business, or Zach would take over the business and I'd move my way up. So we decided to work for a year, wanting to do a backpacking trip, knowing that we would probably go back. So that's kind of the idea, and we didn't really know where we were gonna go.
And we kind of had more responsibility that year. Like
yes,
you were project managing. I was like going on the road with him.
With your dad. So that future seemed more clear at that point, but we knew we wanted to travel.
Okay.
And we would spend like 8 hours every day making glass. So you would cut the glass, clean the glass, set the molds, and everything like that. So usually you work as a team. So we'd have 40 hours a week that would be chatting ideas. We'd chat business ideas. We would chat travel dreams. We'd really talk about everything. So one idea that was in the back of my mind for a long time, I went on a backpacking trip with my cousin when I was 20 through South America. And one of the travelers that I really looked up to, he spoke really highly of Nepal. And this is like one of those guys that he's seen the world, and people would just gather around him at night to hear all his travel stories. And I just like was his little shadow following him everywhere, wanting to hear more travel stories. And Nepal was the one that he just, spoke the most fondly of. So I had it kind of in the back of my head that was this kind of magical place that I wanted to go explore. So I think like probably either at a bar or while we were making glass, we're like, let's go to Nepal. And that was kind of the beginning of the plan. We didn't have any plans beyond that for our trip, but we knew we wanted to go to Nepal and Everest.
It all kind of started. I cut my elbow, and then which is like not that bad because at the glass place, and which isn't that bad because you get a half day because you got to go to the hospital. Ooh. And Zach was like, "Oh, I'll come," and I was like, "Sick!" And like we hadn't really
can't drive. You're bleeding all over the place. Someone needs to drive you.
A little cut on my elbow. So we actually went to St. Paul's, and then after it was like probably 1 o'clock, and Zach was like, "Should we go back?" And I was like, "It's your dad's company, like up to you." And we were like, "Let's play hooky." So we actually went to Flight Center and asked about what it would be like to like how much a flight to Nepal would be, and then I think we just got talking about doing like an around the world ticket.
Yes,
that's what they
upsold
us.
Oh, wow.
On doing around, and then it kind of all sparked because we're an around the world ticket, which was I can't remember exactly. I think it was like for X amount of dollars, you'd get X amount of miles, and you could like fly around the world. You had 1 year to use it, so it all kind of like light bulb that this would be like a possibility. And it was like an $8,000 flight trip or something like that, which is not what we spent in the end, but it definitely.
Thanks for the info.
Yeah, thanks for all the info.
We'll go plan this ourselves.
But it all started at that point, and then we saved up for the year, and then I think what month did we leave? September. Yeah.
Like beginning of September.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
And we had a budget for like, I think it was like $30 a day for a year.
Yeah. It was pretty much like $1,000 a month, give or take. Yeah, I think we left probably with like 12 grand that we saved over the whole year, like living at home and stuff. It wasn't as hard. It was easier to save.
And it surprisingly was like very easy to stay under that budget.
Yeah.
Especially in Nepal and India. We were like, Nepal was often like $15 a day kind of thing.
And that was your first stop.
That was our first stop.
Kathmandu was our first stop.
Yeah. So it's got a place in your guys' heart.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I just want to go back.
That's where my bachelor party to be.
That feeling you have when you like long for something, like maybe like an ex-lover or something like that. That's what like when you like even say Kathmandu or Nepal, that's like the feeling I have on my stomach and my heart. Kind of like that longing.
Yeah.
What is it about the place, do you think?
The people, the smells, like they're such a welcoming people. Like here, somebody asks you a question, you're like, "What do you want, stranger?"
Yeah.
There, it's like they want to share their culture. They're so proud of it. They're so excited to welcome you in and like really open all of the doors, not just like the first door. So right from the beginning, people are wanting to have you over for dinner and tell you about their favorite temples and their family meals, and there's a lot of coming from Western culture with mostly a Christian kind of faith-based populace. There was so much like mystic and magic and based in there. It's kind of like a mix of like Hinduism and Buddhism and other ancient religions that all kind of like merged together. Like even at some temples, it'd be like you would see it was like a Hindu regime, and like there'd be like Hindu imagery to the first floor, and then a Buddhist regime came in, and then like they built above it, and there'd be like Buddhist imagery, and then the Hindus took over again, and there'd be like just kind of this like mishmash of religion and culture and belief, and it just like worked in the nicest way.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting you're talking about the layering of all these different. That's how I felt like when I went to Mexico City, because there is so much history there too. So you have like all the ancient civilizations, like the Incas, and then if you look at the architecture, then there's like the Spanish colonization that came in, but then the Mexicans. So you can see all of that architecture interwoven. It's very cool.
Yeah. So yeah, the tapestry was amazing there, and then combining it with nature.
Yeah.
The mountains and the Himalayas we live in a beautiful place here. I think they are comparable in how beautiful they both are. But just like the sense of adventure there, it doesn't feel like you're going. It feels like you're on your own path, on your own adventure, on your own journey. And you're walking a path, even though thousands of people walk that path every day, it really feels like your own path compared to going somewhere where the tourist trail is more beaten.
Right.
And we were fortunate. We actually met just when we got off the airport. There's like, hundreds of tuk-tuk drivers trying to get you to like drive you to Kathmandu. And we met a guy who just like came up to us and was like, hey, there's tons of them. They're like, I own a travel company. If you're looking to do any like treks or hikes, like here's my number. And like there's hundreds of them giving out these like cards and stuff. And then we took one of the guy's cards. His name was Shanker. And then we actually like maybe like a week later, like
he drove us.
He drove us back. Yeah. And then
I don't know why we trusted him.
I don't know. We just like immediately
seemed like a decent guy.
Yeah, it seemed like a decent guy. And we actually became extremely good friends with him through the whole time. And he was the one who we like introduced us to all his family. After the big hikes that we like did with him, we actually went back to the village that he was from and stayed there for a couple days. And it was like an incredible experience. Like at that point, there hadn't been many Western people that had ever gone to this like remote village.
No electricity.
No electricity. It was such a magical experience to stay there. And so we like, I think for us, that was like probably like the most important part of the whole trip for us, was seeing this whole other side and being able to share with not just his family about how awesome of a person he was, but some of the guides and porters that were with us on our hikes. Their family was there and they had never heard about what other people would say about their sons. So when we were like, oh, like Durba was such a nice guy. He was like an amazing porter. We had so much fun with him. It was so emotional for them to hear someone talk so much highly about their son.
That's so wonderful.
So it's such a cool experience. And like this, one of the guys, Durba, like as an example, when we did the Everest base camp hike, like in order for them to provide even more for their families is opportunities for them to do hikes that they'd never done before. So like Durba had never been on a plane and had never gone to Everest before. So Shankar was the guy who we were friends with, is like, hey, like, would you want Durba to come with you? He's never done this before, but this would be an amazing opportunity. We're like, for sure. So we like came on our flight. He was able to experience the whole thing, which now would allow him to like be a guide the next time around.
Oh, that's so
it's such a cool experience being able to like help these people out, but also like they were like just an incredible group of individuals
the whole time. And this trekking company, Swan Valley Treks, that Shankar owned, he employed the whole community. Like everybody in that community worked for him. And he was like the same age as us, which was like 22 or 23 at the time. So this one young guy employed like the whole village. So it's funny by the end, because we saw the impact. Like if you book a trek with his company, it supports like this whole village of hundreds of people and all the kids and everything like that. So by the end, we were hanging out at his office, like back to our sticker days. Instead of selling stickers, we were helping him sell treks, because we just wanted to see these people that we'd connected with. We wanted to see them do well and have the resources they needed, even though like they were such happy people, but to what we knew as normal, like they didn't have bathrooms or running water or electricity, and they were no less happy than we were, but we knew that they wanted to have those things eventually. So if we could help them sell some treks. So we were like, people were so confused when they'd come to the office and we'd be like,
white guys.
And we'd like do his presentation.
They're like, you're not Shank.
But we still chat with them.
Yeah. We did a fundraiser for them a couple years, like.
I remember that actually.
Yeah. We raised money for their village and stuff. But yeah, we would go back. Zach was fortunate to go back to India last year, 2 years ago.
A couple years ago, went back to India.
But I am getting married next year, so I'm thinking maybe
congratulations.
Maybe a bachelor party in Nepal would be pretty sweet. We haven't talked about that, but we should do that.
I'm really curious. How did kids react to you when they saw you guys? Because I feel like when you travel, and kids haven't seen you, they're so stunned.
The big thing was Zach's camera.
I had a fancy camera, so everybody wanted their picture taken, especially in this village, like Ryan mentioned. It was quite remote, so a lot of people had never seen a Caucasian face before. So we'd have this, they're quite infatuated with us looking different than they did. So we'd have this like trail of like 30 to 40 kids wherever we walked in the village. And other places, you know, some neighborhoods would see you more as an opportunity to buy some candy or something like that. But there was always probably the same as how people stare at people that look different. Here, you know, we look different than Nepalese people, so kids would really stare at us.
And they also, in the village, they heard that we really like rice pudding, like for dessert, but they took it as like, all meals would be rice pudding. So some of our dinners would just be rice pudding, like the biggest bowl.
Oh, yeah.
It was amazing rice pudding, but that'd be like our meal.
Literally every household took a turn making us rice pudding.
Like their version.
Their version
family.
of like goat milk, like rice pudding, or cow milk.
That's so funny.
That is so funny. And is this around the time you guys found seabuckthorn juice? Yeah.
Yeah, so on our first hike in Nepal, we were doing the Annapurna circuit, and we were up in this mountain town called Manang, which is one of the bigger towns in the Annapurna region, which, I mean, by bigger, I mean, like there's more than five tea houses there. But it was cool. Like they had like one of the tea houses had a projector, and they would play like mountain movies every day, and they'd have popcorn. And this is one of the towns where you would often have you'd stay an extra day to acclimatize to the altitude. So we were hanging out and observing things a little more deeply than normal because we had an extra day there, and we noticed that all of the guides and locals were drinking this like bright orange colored drink, and none of the tourists were. So we asked what it was, and it was from this berry called seabuckthorn berry. And just being at high altitude, there's not a ton of stuff that grows up there. It's mostly like starchy vegetables like potatoes and stuff like that. So they depended on this berry for a lot of their nutrients. So we asked if we could try it, and they thought it was funny that somebody wanted, the tart juice. And it was super tart, but it kind of like sparked this idea of wanting to seek out what local communities were having for their kind of local health and wellness remedies. And as we traveled, we kind of would explore that, whether it was Ayurvedic foods in India or, different foods in Southeast Asia. It kind of became a bit of a quest to see what people were having for their natural wellness.
Mm-hmm. So does it give you energy or?
Really, really high in like vitamin C and antioxidants. So for like rural communities like that, where they're not getting like tons of that stuff on a daily basis, it was like super important to them. And it was like, it was like exceptionally sour and tart. Like it was like nothing you've ever experienced in terms of like the tartness that comes from it. And like the other big one was rhododendron.
Yeah, the rhododendron juice
as well was a big one in like these like rural Nepalese communities and stuff. And like I said, we just continually kept trying what we could find.
That's really cool. And thank you for sharing some of your journal entries.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was really fun reading them. And you wrote a line. No, don't worry. It's not. You wrote, "I'm quickly learning you can't classify India." What do you mean by this?
I think from reading books and watching movies, there's always lots of stereotypes. Especially in Delhi, like there's like the stereotype of you get there and it's so busy and it smells and it's loud and everyone's trying to like haggle you. We quickly learned that like India was everything. There was everything you could imagine was taking place in India. You look one way and there'd be people praying. You look the other way and there'd be 10 people on a scooter holding glass off the side. There's just whatever you believed it would be, there'd be the opposite as soon as you turned the next street. So it was just a little bit of everything in the best possible way. Yeah,
I heard you either love India or you hate it, or that you have a love-hate relationship with it.
We loved it.
Yeah, we loved it.
Yeah, how was it for you, Ryan?
Loved it. I don't think there's obviously tons of other places, but like to be able to just like walk the streets, to Zach's point, there's like endless things going on. Like there's not many places in the world that you can just continually walk and turn a different corner and there's like something else to discover, something else, new and unique. And it just like never ended. It just continually kept going. And it's just like a very easy place in my perspective to like travel. It's just like so much to see, so much religion. Yeah. And the difference between like the religion in the north to the religion in the south is just like so many, every state has like a different thing going on. So you could spend years there before you'd be able to explore everything.
Yeah.
I think too, like here, when we think of tourism, there's usually a destination, like you're going to go to the grouse grind or you're going to go to this hike or that hike. With India, like the destination was just getting lost. Every street would have, a new treasure to discover. Like I remember when we first got there, having the glass background, we found we just happened to walk past this like glass plant, and just like how they were doing things was so compared to like what we're used to and all like the what we thought were safety standards or whatever. How they were doing things was like so crazy. and they were just like so blown away that these random travelers had interest in how they were making glass.
Making glass, yeah.
Yeah.
But usually we would just go get lost. We got into riding motorcycles in Nepal. And that was a journey on its own because we hadn't never ridden a motorcycle before. So we decided when we traveled through India, we would just rent motorcycles and go. So we would just literally get lost, and it was before smartphones or anything like that. So it was like a challenge and a journey and an adventure just to get back to where we started.
For sure. I usually call that plans loosely held.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that's such a good way to travel is like you generally know where you're going, like you'll book things here and there, but like why don't you see what the day brings?
Yeah.
It's also easier to do that when you're not like with your partner, with a friend.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
It's like we never argued about anything because it didn't really matter. But
Let's do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah.
I think it's also different. Like it wasn't so much a vacation as a trip because we didn't have a return or an end date. So I think there aren't, when you have like 5 days or whatnot for a vacation, you really want to pack in all those, check those boxes. But when you don't have and you travel a little bit differently, you're not worried about quote unquote wasting days because
you're just meandering.
Just meandering. That's a great way to say it. Like there were days in Kathmandu that we probably did the same thing day in, day out, but it just feels like its own unique experience every day. Because like there, Zach, you don't have to be anywhere. There's no end point to what we were doing. We just kept on, whatever would come up that day, we would just be like, okay, let's go do it.
It's a nice luxury.
Yeah, it's a nice luxury.
For sure. So now when you look back at it, how has travel changed your perspective on the world and how you see people and how you live your life now?
Mm-hmm.
I think it breaks down stereotypes for sure. If you've gone to Malaysia, all of a sudden you'll have a different interaction with anybody Malaysian that you meet. Or if you go to India, you'll have a different interaction with anyone that's Indian that you meet. So I think the more places that you go to, it just opens up your how you will interact with other people. And I think having that experience, you approach people with more kindness and empathy, having experienced their culture than what you might just perceive from television or what other people tell you.
Like in small anecdote, like after being in India, when we got back to Vancouver at the end of our trip, all we did was ask other local Indian people what their favorite restaurant was so that we'd be able to, similar to what we would do in India, to be able to try like the mom and pop places. We like took that into the same thing. So we would like venture to all these like small Indian little like cafes and stuff because some person would be like, oh, that's like my favorite place.
Oh, no way.
So we kind of did the same. I always remember when we came back from our travels, we always wanted to ensure that we had the travel mentality. So we did so much things that we had never done in Vancouver before because like we might as well apply what we did there over here. I think like eventually it starts to fade, but we really kept that going once we got home. Yeah. We were like really trying to do everything we had never done in the city.
So what's one of your favorite places then for Indian?
Here?
Yeah.
We really like this one that I'm happy is still around. It's more like South Indian Sri Lankan food called Nuru Mahal on Fraser Street. And we went to Sri Lanka on our trip as well. And the cuisine in Sri Lanka is so amazing and unique. Like it's kind of like Caribbean food meets Thai food meets Indian food. I might like be insulting Sri Lankan people by saying that, but that was my interpretation.
It's very coconut heavy.
And they have all these like dishes that are unique to Sri Lanka, like these coconut pancakes called string hoppers. So this one place, Nuru Mahal on Fraser Street, it's got all these Sri Lankan dishes that you can't really find. I mean, they do have some of those dishes in South India as well.
Yeah. Zach actually in Sri Lanka was the first person I've ever seen to physically overeat at a buffet because he couldn't stop. I would be like, Zach, stop, you're going overboard. And it was like, we were staying at like a $5 like a night place, but next to us was like a hotel that was probably like $50. And we'd go to the buffet at the $50 place and Zach just wouldn't give up. He wouldn't
Did you get
stop.
sick?
Oh yeah, man. Me and buffets are a losing recipe. I've got no off switch. I just like, oh, that looks good. I'll come back for that, and then I do come back for it. I'm like, oh, that also looks
40
good.
40-degree weather.
Oh my gosh.
Just overeating.
Yeah.
Full and hot and humid.
Most people when they like travel and they walk everywhere, they like come back. Even in the mountains, like when you trek Annapurnas or Everest or whatever, people at the end are like, want to see how much weight they lost and they step on a scale. I gained like 15 pounds
Yes, I gained so
and we're
much
walking
weight.
like 10 hours a day but I would just eat so much food. And Ryan actually, he got quite sick when we were
lost it all.
trekking Everest. So I would just eat all his meals too. Yeah. So I think I
balance. You guys balance each other out.
Yeah,
always.
I think I gained like 10 or 15 pounds from walking 10 hours a day.
So what's one universal truth you've learned about people across the world?
I think everybody wants to be seen. They want you to see their culture and see what their belief system is. And I mean, seeing some of the more rural places, I think our basic wants are the same. Like, they want to support their community. They want to support their family. They want to be loved. They want to have meals together. Like, that was one of my favorite parts in the village. Going back to that, none of these people spoke English. So, but we would have, like Ryan said, rice pudding with every household. And we actually had some of the most amazing dinner conversations we've ever had, but they didn't understand us and we didn't understand them. But there'd be so much laughter and so much enjoyment of each other's company. And it was just from the sense of being together in a way.
Yeah. And I feel like universally, like, I think one thing we picked up on the trip was the amount that people wanted to share stuff and also to be understanding of what you have to say to them. It's like a dialogue between wanting to learn, but also wanting to be heard. And like every time even on like the trains in India, like people would always come up to us and ask us a million questions, and then loved when we asked them a million questions. Like the reciprocal side of that is part of what's amazing about traveling, but it's fairly universal. Everyone wants to like be heard, but also they want to learn something new about something.
Of course.
So that continually, like that was in every country that we probably went.
Do you remember what the typical questions would be on the train? I can still remember what people would ask.
Are we married?
Yeah, that was the first
one.
one.
Do we have a wife? Like, do we have a wife? Yeah.
Then I'd be concerned that we don't.
Yeah, and then be concerned that we don't. And what else would they ask me?
What religion?
Oh yeah, what religion? I'd always ask that.
And then, because I'm half Jewish, that would really confuse them. I'd be like, oh, I'm half Jewish. They're like, that didn't make any sense.
Yes,
so there'd be a lot of questions about like, how are you half Jewish? Like, what does that mean? What do you believe in? And
how would you explain that to them in a way that you felt that they would understand?
Well, the funny thing is, a lot of the people we talked to just wanted us to have a faith, because that was comforting to a lot of them, just that you believed in something.
Yeah.
So I think long-winded, we'd go in a circle, and eventually we would get to the point that I believed in something, and they'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, they wanted to know if we were married, religion, and I can't remember. There was like two other questions. I can't remember.
They'd always ask if we wanted to come to the wedding.
Yeah.
That happened every single time.
Did you go to one?
No, we never did. It was on our bucket list.
Yeah. They'd always ask. They'd always want us to
We wanted to be in a Bollywood movie as an extra, and we wanted to go to a wedding, but we didn't do either. We got obsessed with Bollywood movies. They're so good.
Yeah. Zach became obsessed with Bollywood. Let's be clear.
I've like never been the least bit interested in celebrity gossip here. Like, I don't know anything about celebrities, but there I was reading like the Bollywood reports every day, and I knew like all the gossip on all the Bollywood stars. I'd be like, oh my God, Deepika did this.
Yeah, Zach was infatuated with the Indian celebrity.
It was so funny.
Yeah.
So then you guys came back.
Yeah.
And Juice Truck started in 2011, and it was the first cold pressed juice bar in Canada.
Yeah. I had stayed at the end of my trip. I had gone to South Africa for the World Cup, and Zach had gone back to India for a little, and then on to Amsterdam. And I got home a couple weeks after he did, and he actually sent me. We knew that throughout the trip that we probably wanted to do something like juice related. Like, we thought the seabuckthorn thing was so unique. It was kind of how acai berry was like just coming out of Brazil. We were like, oh, like seabuckthorn could be like, we could bring it to North America. Like, no one knows about it. And he had sent me an article that the city of Vancouver had just opened a pilot program for food trucks. And Zach was like, oh, like, we have no money. Like, clearly we had no money. So Zach was like, oh, this could be like the cheapest way to like maybe do something like juice and smoothie related. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I read the article. And then when we got back, I think we like had a conversation about like, do we want to work for your dad? Like, that was kind of like, are we going to take that journey like in the glass world for the next 30 years of our lives, or do we want to have an opportunity to try to do something ourselves? And the amazing part is my dad was also a small business owner, and much like Zach's dad was a small business owner, so they both immediately were like, go for it. And I think like the fact that they were like, that sounds kind of cool, like you might as well try it out to see if it works. Like a food truck wasn't that expensive, and we were naive enough that we were like, okay, like we could probably make something go of it. So I think we got back, when did I get back? October? And by the summer, we were pretty much up and running. So probably like 8 months.
Wow.
Like from the
quick,
time.
Actually.
Yeah. I'd say it took about 8 months.
Especially considering we didn't know, like we wrote a business plan and went to the bank because we didn't have any money. And our business plan, we thought it was a business plan. It was like a paragraph. We were like, we want to start a food truck that sells cold pressed juice and smoothies. And we're going to blah, 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 go to all these places. We took it to the bank and they were like,
this isn't a business plan.
What do you want us to do with this? So we asked them, well, how do we write a business plan? Because we didn't know anything. And you had to make paintings and take pictures. So they told us to go to Small Business BC and they taught us how to write a business plan there. And then we were able to get some funding from Futurepreneur, which was called something else back then, CYBF back then. And then once we had funding from Futurepreneur, the banks gave us a little bit of funding. So we bought a food truck for like $3,000.
$3,500.
Really? No way.
It was like
peanuts.
It was like it had 450,000 kilometers on it. It had been like a baking delivery truck that drove across Canada, like back and forth.
Wow.
And I think it was like $3,500.
The engine barely worked.
It barely worked, yeah. And then we got it outfitted at a company out in Surrey that originally started making like sinks for like the medical for like armies, like remote like sinks and stuff like that. And it just started to get into like the food truck world. So we were one of like the earlier like food trucks that thid ever done. Which was kind of a cool experience.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the truck would always, we can jump back, but once the truck was running, because it was so old, it would always die when we were trying to get to like our destination, our location. So we'd be like at the side of this road, like trying to get someone to jump us. We'd be like, here, have some raw chai brownies, have some juice. Just give us a charge.
We'll just help you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And so Ryan, you're the executor and Zach, you're the ideas guy. So there's that balance between vision and doing the thing in a business sense, which is amazing. I'm curious though. I mean, you probably get asked the question about your balance in your business partnership, but I'm curious about the strength and balance in your long friendship. So I'm curious. What are like the similarities between you, but also the differences that lead to the balance in that dynamic?
We never argue. And I think that's like a positive thing. I don't think we don't argue because we don't want to. I think we just like naturally have like similar visions and paths, and we just like naturally don't have any real confrontations. So I think it makes like a relationship quite easy. I think granted that we were like friends for a long time, but we also worked together every summer for like 10 years. So we had like an understanding of like what my strengths were and like what Zach's strengths were and what our weaknesses were like early on. So we kind of knew, like we had an expectation of what like Zach probably wasn't going to do and like what I was going to do. Like Zach wasn't going to go under the engine and fix it. Like if we were on the side of the road, like we knew that was happening. But Zach also knew that I probably wasn't going to do a podcast when I was 20. Like we had like an understanding on like what
your lanes.
What lanes to stay into. And then I think part of it is collaboratively. We still pretty much connect on everything, but like I have full faith in like his decision making, and I think he has like faith in my decision making.
Yeah.
And like big decisions, we obviously come together, but the little today stuff, we kind of just like go on and like make what we think are the right decisions. And I think we're also good because if any of us makes a bad decision, like I don't get mad at Zach. I don't think he'd get mad at me either. It's like part of the world of business. Like nothing's going to be perfect every day. No one's going to make the right decisions all the time. So we accept that.
Yeah, and I think we're fortunate. Different things stress us out. So I'll be like really stressed out about something, and then Ryan will be so casual about it. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, if Ryan's not stressed out, then because Ryan also like being more of the logistics implementer guy, like he kind of handles the vitals of the business, the things that keep us alive. I'm like, okay, well, if he's not stressed out, then everything's okay.
Yeah,
and vice versa.
Yeah.
So when it comes to exploring new ideas and what endeavors to pursue, how do you guys discern an idea that's nice versus an idea that's a must-do?
Okay, well, Zach will send me all the ideas, and then I'll tell him which ones are fucking not happening and which ones are realistic. And that's like kind of how it's always been.
We've gotten used to that.
Yeah. I don't think you get mad if I'm like, no, that's not practical. That's not practical.
Okay, on to the next. Because I'm lucky that I've never had a shortage of ideas. Not saying that any of them are good, but I'll bounce them all off of Ryan. And I think Ryan's he's very rational and practical. So I'll bounce them all off and he'll be like, okay, that was good. Never bring that one up again. That was
in
very
those
bad.
words, literally.
Yeah. So he filters and implements the ideas that might actually have a fighting chance. And then the other ones usually fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
Some of them will get
They come back.
cyclical and will come back.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But some of it must be like, do you find some of it intuitive? Like you just intuitively know that's an idea.
Well, Zach's had a dream about the reason we have a blueberry matcha smoothie is because Zach texted me at like 8 a.m. being like, I had this dream of this smoothie. Here are the ingredients. And it's been a menu item for like a decade. So
yeah, that's a funny one. I think we both have like a gut feeling of what we think will work and what won't work as well. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we're wrong, but we've always been quick to pivot, and like I think one of our strengths is we don't get overly attached to any of our ideas or even any of our successes or failures. We're able to try to be fluid with that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Like just to flow with business and life.
Like we might be like, that was a great idea, and then our customers show that it wasn't because they don't buy any of it. We're like, okay, well,
that's fine.
We'll try again.
You tried.
Yeah.
And so you've launched a business and a brand that now has 6 brick and mortar, including two spots, counters in 2 Whole Foods locations.
Yes.
You've got wholesale distribution. You've got a dedicated community, a book, a new podcast called A Little More Good that you co-host with Dean Morris, Zach. That's a lot. Like, wow. So how do you guys feel like when you look back on everything that you guys have built?
Sometimes I have to thank my staff. Like if it wasn't for like the majority of our staff, like we wouldn't be where we are. Like we have some amazing managers that have been with us for a long time. Like some of our staff have been with us for 8 years now, I'd say. And like I think it lends them a hand that like we've been able to have success because our ideas can only take us so far and we can only implement so many things. But if it's not like the staff that are like guiding those decisions in a positive way, like we wouldn't be where we are now.
100%. Yeah, I think like in the first 2 or 3 years, we carried a lot on our shoulders. But since then, we've really relied on a good team. Yeah. And they allow us to do this.
Yeah.
Anything in the pipeline that we can know about?
Oh yeah, we just finished our vision and goals for the next 3 years. I mean, the podcast was a big one, so that was exciting to roll that out. What else was on there, Ryan?
I think Surrey will probably be our next location.
Okay. Like King George Hub area?
I think like South Surrey probably. Okay, we just deliver so much out into that region. Like Langley and Surrey are outside of Vancouver, without a doubt, our biggest market for like home delivery stuff. So I think that will be like a next location that we'd pick.
We're switching over. One nice pivot that we're working on from COVID is we're pivoting our stores to have a grocery concept as well.
Okay.
So it'll be like half grocery, half juice bar. So Main Street will be completed like by the end of the summer. And then we're going to have our website's also being redone. So it's going to mirror the grocery experience. So all of our favorite like plant-based foods and supplements and treats and all that will be available. So kind of curating more of the plant-based lifestyle that we believe in ourselves. So we're excited.
Awesome.
We're excited for that.
I tried going to your Main Street location this weekend because I wanted to try the soft serve.
Oh yeah.
And I circled the block so many times and I could not catch a break with parking.
Oh, secret tip. If maybe you don't tell anybody.
Except everyone needs to listen to.
There are 2 spots in the back that our staff use.
Yeah,
so
you can park there,
but
right?
Most of our staff don't drive. So
Okay.
Feel free to pull in.
I'll just be like, they told me I could.
That's between us, right?
That's funny.
Just us.
Yeah.
So just a couple of more questions for you guys.
Of course.
You've gone through some major life chapters together. Growing up, starting a business together, marriage, kids, an upcoming marriage, growing your own families. If you were going to say one thing, it could be a few, to each other about what you most appreciate or something you want to thank the other person for, what would you say?
Well, that's so nice.
Ooh, Zach is like the easiest person in the world to just share anything with. Like you can tell him bad things or good things. Like you can tell him anything, and he's really good at listening unless there's kids in the background yelling. but he like is a really easy person. I think people are very open to sharing stuff with Zach. Like I think he receives it really well. He acknowledges what you're saying, and his responses to like feedback or questions and stuff has always been one of his strengths. He's a very easy person to chit chat with and hang out.
Thanks, Ryan. For Ryan, I'd say I'm very grateful for your friendship. I think beyond business, Ryan is the person that I would choose to travel and explore the world with. And I know there's a life beyond business and a life beyond what you would do with your direct family as well. So I'm grateful to Ryan. Really feels like a soul brother. So I'm lucky that I have that person in my life. And it's nice to do business with Ryan, but also stoked for once we get through this chapter of business and COVID is cleared up and getting to a chapter where we can travel and explore and do fun things again.
Mm.
That's why I got to have my stag in Nepal, because Zach needs an excuse. That will be the only 1 week Zach has in the next couple of years with his kids to go away.
Yeah.
Before Ryan proposed, I'm like, can you just propose? Because I really want to go away on a bachelor party.
He needs a week. He would go just with me. I was like, it's just me and you going. He'd be fine.
I'm like, this is the only excuse that Megan, my wife, will accept for taking like a week off of family expectations.
That's better.
Well, speaking of family, Zach, what do you want Finn and Cole to remember most about you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that I'd like them to remember me as a person that sees the best in people and wants to see the best in what's possible for the world, and that they can have that same outlook of hope and optimism. Because I think that's what we need to, have a healthy, happy world. We need to see what the positives, because there's a lot that can distract you from the good. So to see the light, not by ignoring the darkness, but knowing that there's always light. I hope that they can see the world with those eyes as well.
And Ryan, for you, what would you say to your younger self, the athlete who persevered through what could have been seen as a limitation? What would you say to your younger self now with what you know?
It's okay, you didn't make the professional soccer. It's fine.
If only you had that left foot.
If only I've had that left foot. I think like the journey that you take as a kid, like whoever you want to be when you're 10 years old or who you want to be when you're 13, like it evolves and shifts all the time. And getting stuck in like a mindset of like what you think the world needs from you, like will evolve. Mm-hmm. Like when I was 13, I had an idea of what I wanted to be. When I was 15, that it always changes. And I think even like, as hopefully I'll have children in the future, like I think that will be like my mindset for them as well. Like whatever decisions they make, I'll support it. But I'm always like, you can pivot. Mm-hmm. Like there's nothing, your job can change 10 times throughout your life. And that is totally fine.
Yeah, those are wise words. My final question that I ask every guest, with what you do, what is it that you want to leave behind in the world?
You got one there, Sparks?
I say I really want to own a farm one day. So I feel like maybe it's just to like give back to the world of produce. I just want to grow some stuff. Like, yes. I think like
the world needs that too.
It just needs it. I just watched Interstellar again last night, so I'm introspective on like the need to grow and harvest food. So I think I'd like to give. Yeah, I think I could see myself like heading into that world eventually. Yeah, just to grow.
Playing on that same theme, I think my goal is to just plant seeds and let them grow, whether they're an idea or a possibility. Just have conversations that plant seeds and see what happens with those seeds. Let them be what they're going to be.
I love it. Well, mad respect for you two. I'm really glad that you guys came in today. This was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Great
This
to see you.
felt like a really great catch up. And I can't wait to see what other seeds you plant and grow.
Thanks.
Thank you for being.
Maybe we can go mushroom foraging again.
Yeah. Yes, I'm there. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, mate.
If you enjoyed that last conversation, be sure to check out more episodes of The Craft on Spotify and guest photo galleries on the website at wearethecraft.com. Thanks again for listening.